Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Introducing a powerful new update from the Foojan app. Now with flexible subscription plans to fit your journey monthly, quarterly, or yearly. Our new AI-driven onboarding customizes your path to feeling better, faster, and enjoy a refreshed experience with stunning 3D interactive videos. Update now. Empower your inner voice with Foojan. Download today.
Welcome to the Inner Voice, a Heartfelt Chat podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Foojan Zeine, a psychotherapist, author, and the creator of the awareness integration theory. I'm so thrilled to have you join me. Today, I promise you it's a very, very interesting and insightful discussion, very different than most of my guests who are coming. And you'll see how different that is. It's a very, very kind of an experiential experience. So in this episode, I talked to Tim Braun. He's an internationally renowned medium and has conducted over almost 22,000 sitting in the past 24 years. He was born in Whittier, California, and is the youngest of 6 children. He graduated USC in interdisciplinary studies, and he currently resides in Orange County. It is Tim's desire to heal those with grief of loss and to reestablish the ties that we have lost with those who are no longer with us. So Tim believes that our love is the link that allows us to connect with those who are not with us anymore. Many of his clients have had their lives changed dramatically and have been given hope that there's a place of beauty, joy that exists at the end of our life, and that this, when we move on from Earth. Loved ones are there and love doesn't die, but is taken to this place called the other side. So he has been sitting with private clients for more than 20 years. Hollywood celebrities, renowned athletes, and international corporate leaders have embraced his work. He's the author of multiple books, including Life and Death, this one, and his new book, which is already out 2 weeks ago, which is called AfterLife. And the book is amazing. It really gives you a guideline about how to go through the grief, how to become ready for either transitioning where one of your loved ones are moving on, or it's your own time of moving, or that you've missed someone and they're coming to you because they have a message for you or they want to support you. So it's the book is amazing, and I always learn from him whenever I have a chance to sit down. I met him at a gathering, and I was so impressed, and the conversation was so beautiful that I actually asked him to come to my show, especially when his book was out. And I really encourage all of you to listen, and with your heart and with your experiential energy of just having whatever is just sharing. Tim shares. We both share some of the personal concepts or experiences, and I hope that is enjoyable for you as much as it has been for me. Now, be sure to subscribe to my podcast and my YouTube channel, and connect with me through my website, foojanzeine.com, or any of my social media. Now, go to Foojan app. If you go to Apple Store or Google Play, Foojan app has 31 areas that you could check into. You really look at your life, different areas of your life, how you think, how you feel, what kind of results you're creating, how to be fulfilled in life. Now, interestingly enough, the research we've done with the app, people are getting 70%, up to 70% fulfillment in their life, even when they've gone through one area of life, like finances, career, intimate relationship, and they really looked at themselves and gained skills. Now, the app also has an AI chatbot, which is closed AI chatbot, an assistant for you. Her name is Mira. So when you go to the app, you can also check out Mira, which you could ask any questions and she'll answer you from the awareness integration method. We've trained Mira to be able to really tune in and give you skills and create like pondering questions so you become more aware, and give you the skills systematically in how you can better your life in any of the questions that you have. So share with me your thoughts. I love, love, love to hear from you. Now, without further ado, here's Tim Braun.
Listen up if you want to promote your personal growth and self-awareness. I found the Foojan app last month and I have been absolutely loving it. I personally have never learned guided meditation, but thanks to this app, I now have learned incredible tools for my own stress relief and emotional self-awareness. Not to mention, there are self-evaluation tools and professional coaching available to utilize however your journey to self-discovery takes you. Join Foojan today and redefine your life one step at a time.
Intentional Parenting, a practical guide to awareness integration theory, written by Dr. Jafari, Dr. Foojan Zeine, and Dr. Manoukian, 3 experts in human development, is your step-by-step guide to raising a healthy child prepared for a culturally integrated world. You're supported in parenting infants to adolescents using the latest evidence-based scientific research on parenting. Order your copy on Amazon now.
It is such a joy to have you with us, everyone. Tim Braun, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Foojan. Thank you for having me.
Well, I've had the pleasure of meeting you at a friend's house, and we shared and we had an amazing conversation. So I really wanted to have you on the show. Plus, that you have your book coming out, Afterlife, a medium's a message of healing and the spiritual transition. So the first thing that possibly people want to know is, what does a medium do? How do you get your kind of like information? And I know that you shared with me that this was something that innately you had experienced as a child. So can you share a little bit about what that is all about? And then we'll go into the rest of the healing and how we can manifest what your gifts are and how to heal people that really need healing.
Sure. Well, it all started when I was about 6 years of age, and I was seeing, hearing, feeling spirit. And how it really started was, in the summer, when I was about 6 years of age in the backyard, I was playing with my friend Joey, and we were playing with our Tonka toys and playing in the dirt. And that would be like during the week, every day during the week. And Joey lived down the street, more towards the corner of the street, end of the street rather. And then Christmas came along, and my mom and dad are all big Christmas stockings and things like that. So I said, let's put a stocking up for Joey, and because that was his name. And my mother gave me that look like, who's Joey? And I said, the boy that I've been playing with, every single day. And I still remember this look, Foojan. She just gave me this look and she goes, honey, she goes, you're out there playing by yourself. She goes, you're laughing and you're talking. And we just, thought that you had an imaginary friend. I'm like, no, he's real. And then shortly after that, once I started to short circuit in my brain, I didn't see Joey anymore. So it all started when I was about 6 years of age. And since then, I've done this work now privately in private practice for 27 years. And up until now, I have done over 22,000 one-on-one sittings now in 8 countries. My book is in 6 countries, but I've done this work in 8 countries. And one thing that everyone has to realize is, and I've been to 35, maybe 36 countries now, and all the places I've gone to doing this work, I always like to say that death does not discriminate. It affects us all. We always have a parent who dies, a brother who passes, a child that passes, and death does not discriminate wherever you travel in the world. So I really enjoy going to different countries. I enjoy doing the work here in Southern California just to really help as many people as possible. I still remember one client going back, this is about maybe 25, 26 years, and was during the first few years of doing this work. And a husband and wife came in, and when they sat down, I looked behind the wife's head back here, because when a person stands in spirit behind here, that would be in the category of husband or wife, brother or sister, son or daughter or friend. I'm seeing this young girl in her early 20s, and I kept on getting this word, this letter H. And I said, I keep on seeing this little girl. She's like 21 years of age, and her name is H. The parents broke down. Long story short is their daughter committed suicide 6 months earlier, and her name was Heather. And I still remember this, Fujan, when the couple left, the woman looked at me and I could tell that she didn't want to do the sitting with the medium, but she heard some good feedback from some of her friends. So she came in. And I still remember it because when she came in, you can just tell she was just really guarded and just didn't want to do that. The husband, matter of fact, interestingly enough, was more open to it than she was. I still remember this, Fujan. She grabbed my wrist when she was walking out, and she goes, Mike, her husband, and I have been in therapy weekly for over a year, and I received more in this session than I have received in 1 year of therapy. Now, a little bit of a side note there. I'm a big believer in therapy. I think everybody needs to go to a therapist, a qualified therapist, the one that's good. But it was just showing how much healing took place with that validation of the daughter coming through and saying it wasn't an accident, that she was being bullied at school and the parents had no idea. And it's nice about doing sittings is you get a lot of validation later. There's many times by the way, I record every session that I do for clients, and there's many times where a person says, "No, it doesn't make sense. That's not true." And I said, "Well, you have the recording. Take it, share it with your husband or your wife, share it with your siblings." And like 8 out of 10 times, I always get like a phone call or email and say, "Oh my goodness, you were correct." And I'm not boasting ego saying that I need to be correct. I'm just saying is that when you're doing a sitting, it's called psychic amnesia. It's like you sometimes just can't remember. And plus, sometimes when people come through from spirit, you weren't expecting them. You were expecting someone else. And that's what I always tell clients is we sit with spirit and we see who comes in and who doesn't.
So one of the differences between a figment of my imagination than actually seeing being a medium is that a figment of my imagination, I'm the only one who's getting entertained by this. Nobody else really has, any value for it. When I share it, other people don't have the same experience. But what you're sharing is that when you actually have the experience of seeing and you share it with people, that resonates with them because it's true for them, and that's what they see. And this book, your old book, Life and Death, you have a lot of great stories from people who you have sat with and that they've gone through the experience with you. But one of the things that you said, which I think is so important, is that there is a conversation about, and in your new book, AfterLife, there is a conversation about which everybody is intrigued about what happens after we die. And most people don't have the experience of their loved ones coming to them and kind of reciting, well, this is exactly what happens after you die. You go through this, 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 this. A lot of people are waiting to see and they're wanting to hear. But even in your latest book, Afterlife, you share a lot of amazing information and healing for people who are grieving. So it's not about necessarily what happens to you after life, but it's about what happens to you in this life as you're grieving and mourning for the person who has left and gone.
Absolutely.
So I'm hearing about the healing works, having some message, knowing that things are okay. And most of the things that I've heard from you and read through your book, mostly the messages which are coming, which are so relieving for us, is that everything's okay. They're okay. They're in a different place. They're transitioning in a different place. And it takes away a lot from our guilt, our incompleteness that possibly we had while they were alive. So much of your work is about who is here and left.
That's true. And, when a person passes over, I've seen, now doing over 20,000 sittings, people sometimes ask, like, how do you know that you've done over 22,000 one-on-one sittings? And I just say, well, I do 6 sessions a day, 4 days a week. And I've always been fully booked ever since I started. So one day I must have been bored and I added it up. But regret is one of the biggest things that comes through from those who have passed over. Regret of, I wish I would have said to my wife how much I loved her. A parent, a father coming through and saying, I wish I would have told my son how much I'm proud of him. There's so much regret of the things that we don't say when we are here. But when a person passes over, it's very individualistic from person to person. Now, mind you, let's just for 1 minute talk about religions. In all my experience doing this work, it doesn't matter whether you believe in God or don't. It doesn't matter if you're a devout Catholic or a Muslim or if you're a Christian. When you're here on this planet, be the best person that you could possibly be. Treat everybody as you would want to treat yourself. And whether you believe in God or not, or whether you go to church or go to temple or go to mosque or not, it doesn't matter as long as you keep that vibration up. Those people that have the vibration that are low, that are which in these days we would call evil, greedy, all this sort of stuff that I really don't want to mention. When that soul crosses over, it goes to a lower level. So when you do cross over and you have that good vibration, you go to a higher level. I would have to say it would be kind of like on spirit side, there's 9 different levels, and each level there's 7 different sections. So there's all shades of gray. So it's like super, super good, super, super bad, remember somewhere in between. But reincarnation is a thing that many people don't even talk about. Even the Catholics don't even talk about reincarnation. And this was in the Bible before the year 328. It was actually Constantine who took it out of the Bible with his mother because they wanted to control the population. And reincarnation exists. So if you made mistakes in this lifetime, well, then you come back and you repeat them.
There was a study that was done by a pediatrician that he was seeing a lot of children, young children, and the young children had a lot of specific memories that they were holding. It seemed like those memories were about their past life. And he had concluded in this research that he's done with many, I don't know, like 50,000 children. And he said that all the way until about 4 or 5, many of the children who come in, they still have some level of a memory of their past life. And it was interesting because he had concluded that the memories were that people come in within the same location, same city, same almost neighborhood, same family setting in order to be in different roles in order to complete whatever it is that they completed. It was
That's true, and I agree. That's true, and I agree with that. When a baby is born, I'll tell you this one story here. It'll be under 2 minutes, but it was a client of mine who told me she gave birth to a daughter, and the daughter was aged until about 3 or 4 years of age. And then the client had another child and a baby. So it was on the camera, the baby camera. And the mother was in the bedroom and saw her 3-year-old go to the crib and start whispering to the baby and say, "Can you please remind me what it's like to be over there? I'm forgetting what it feels like." And that was from a client that told me that. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Another client told me that her daughter, when she was 3 years of age, put her hands on her waist and says, "Mommy, do you remember when I used to be the mother and you used to be my daughter?" So, we reincarnate within certain soul groups. And I'll tell you just real quick about a soul group. I'll talk about my soul group. I'm the youngest of 6 kids in and I say this lovingly, crazy Catholic family. And people say, and being a medium in the family, I've been ostracized from the family, from doing this work. But people say to me, it's like, if we choose our families and we reincarnate within our soul groups, what were you thinking, Tim? And I say, well, when we reincarnate, it's all about the lessons that are supposed to be learning. And I know that for my father, I have to really learn and send forgiveness. And I don't want to talk about that just because I don't want to, I'm an open book, but we have a lot more to talk about, you and I. For my sister, who is just a born again Christian, I have to learn patience, So I'm learning all these different lessons with these siblings in my life. And always remember, that we don't have any best friends or loving husbands or loving spouses, and we don't have any enemies. We only have teachers. So every person that comes into your life, whether they're a best friend, well, they're teaching you love. They're teaching you how to really lift that vibration, that heart chakra vibration up. When you have the enemy, like a next door neighbor, okay, you're supposed to learn patience or forgiveness or tolerance or whatever it may be. But every person that comes into your life is a teacher. And that's kind of hard to accept, but that's what it is.
Something that was really interesting when you share that, I recall this memory that I didn't have. Other people were sharing it with me, actually, and my family members were sharing it with me. And I've never been religious. I've never really believed in God. I'm not atheist. I just I have experiences, but I don't have any belief systems. And I've read all the religions and all of that. But one of the interesting memory that many of my relatives share with me is when I was around 2.5, 3 years old. And I was left with a couple of other kids. I guess our family member had gone to a party or something, and they had left us with someone who was taking care of us. And we were being mischievous, playing mischievously. And the lady came in and said, you can't do this. You're not allowed to do these things, and you're going to be punished. And she said that you at 3 had put your hands like this and said, we're children of God. We could do anything we want. We came here to do whatever we want. And she said she was laughing. She wanted to discipline me, but she started laughing at me. And then she shared with, my mother and a whole family. So this was there for so long. When you said, there's a time that we remember, it was interesting that that's what had come out of my mouth at a very early. Yeah.
And that's in the first 3 years. Let's talk about the last maybe 2 years of a person's life when they are starting to go through a little bit of dementia, or they're having a terminal disease or an illness. I've seen this so many times with clients telling me that when their father was crossing over, the father says, "Oh my goodness, Charlie, my pet poodle's here," and they're like, "No, Dad. Charlie died 20 years ago," kind of like giving a little bit of a comfort. And then the father would say, "Oh my God, there's my Aunt Agnes." "No, Dad, Aunt Agnes died 2 years ago." And then, of course, that man was reaching that veil. So when you're born, you come from the veil. When you get closer to death, you approach that veil again, and you're seeing spirit.
My uncle, again, who was absolutely throughout his whole life atheist, never believed in religion or any of those. He just thought he would leave, and that's it. He would completely leave. And I remember my family had told me that he's at the end of his stage of life, and why don't you come and visit him? Mm-hmm. So I sat beside him, and he looks at me and says, "Foojan, I've never believed in anything." I said, "Yes, I know." He said, "Look up there." And I'm looking and I don't see anything. He said, and he recalled 5 of our relatives who passed away. They're standing there telling me, "It's okay, come. We're having an enjoyment time here. Don't be afraid," and all of those things. And what am I doing? Am I hallucinating or whatever? What should I do? I'm like, "Well, are you done with this life?" He says, "Yeah. But I'm scared." I'm like, "Well, possibly they're telling you don't be scared and, just move on." And I remember saying goodbye to him, and I flew back. And while I was in flight, he let go and completed and transitioned. But yes, absolutely what you're sharing with me, I've had the experience with him. Where
you mentioned twice about religion and not really believing in something else, and the first thing that comes to my mind, I was just smiling, like, "Oh my goodness, you were so lucky you were raised without any guilt." As I always like to say, the Jews, they invented the guilt, and the Catholics perfected it, and here you were left out of it. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're so lucky." But I'll tell you just a little side note there. This happened about maybe 2 months ago, and this has happened a few times, where the husband and wife, the client's parents came through. When they stand on the left side of the person, that's the mother's side. When they stand on the right shoulder, it's the father's side. I clearly knew this was the client's mother and the father, and the father in spirit just kept on smiling at the wife. And I looked at the father and I'm like, "What are you smiling at?" And he said, "You tell my daughter that all those years I didn't go to church with your mother. I made it to heaven, and look how much money I saved from putting money in the basket." And the client just started laughing and then crying and laughing and crying. She goes, "I don't know what emotion to have." She goes, "That's totally my dad. He never wanted to go. He didn't believe in it. He thought it was a farce. And this is, I'm like, amazing. So she started a short circuit in front of me, but it's just kind of a little bit of a recap on what you were saying about religion and God.
I've had actually clients who've come into my session and I'm trying to conduct therapy with them, and they look at me and they, like you said, they look up there and says, "Your mother is here." And she's saying that she is the responsible party to get you to where she's here. So she wants you to give her the credit. And I started laughing and I'm like, yes, you get the credit, because I think in my lifetime, I didn't give her a lot of credit. I was so angry at her. So it's
Yeah.
almost like that's incomplete. And she wants me to give her like the blessing and the credit. And
Yeah.
then it was more like, oh, you have, two other angels that are holding you and they're there and they keep telling you. And half of the stuff you're so good being a therapist is because they're also giving you information. So it's interesting of how experientially many of us might have some of these experiences, but we kind of like dismiss it. We're not
Yeah.
necessarily holding on to them or cherish them and see, how
You
much.
know what? When I sorry for interrupting. When I do a session, I always like to say the less the medium knows, the better. You come in, you sit down, and we do a 2-minute guided meditation. And then after that, for about a minute or two, I just explain how this works and how I work as a medium. And then I just let people know what I see, feel, and hear. Only at the end do I allow people to ask questions, because many times when a person asks a question, it can lead the sitting. It can be influential to the medium. And I always like to say, the less that I know, the better in sittings. And so I've been doing this work now for 27 years, 28 years. And when you have no information about that person, it's perfect, because I can't read for friends or family because I know who's died. Like I can't read for my aunt who lost her husband, because if I was seeing her husband, I'm like, okay, am I imagining it because I knew my Uncle Ken, or is he really coming through? So when I don't know anything about a person, it's perfect, because then I can say, oh, that's your mother, that's your father. Here's one thing that's happened in sittings over the years, many, many times, where I'll say, any questions? And they'll say, yes. Why did my uncle come in? I didn't really know him too well. And that's how they said it. They stated it. And I said, well, out of everybody who's come in, your grandparents, your mother, your own sister, I said, that uncle? I said, you call on him first for anything that you need, because he says that he owes it to you. And the woman says, I believe this whole sitting, everything you said has been accurate, but she goes, I disagree with you on this. That uncle physically and sexually abused me when I was a child. And that's why I'm wondering, why is he coming into my session? And I said, he's coming in to apologize. And she goes, well, I don't want him in the sitting. And I said, listen, trust me, he wants to make it up to you. I said, if you're my best friend, which you're not, but you're my client, which you are, I say, when you're reaching out to different people on spirit side, at times call that uncle and say, I need some help with this. Because those people who have wronged other people on spirit side, many times they want to make it up to you.
Well,
It's like an ace card.
that's good news. Everyone, Afterlife, a Medium's Message of Healing and the Spiritual Transition by Tim Braun. Tim, in this book, you share also a lot of different types of meditation and coming to terms with who you are after someone has left. Can you share a little bit about, for many of our, listeners and viewers who have lost someone, who have, a dear person who has left? What are some of the things that you can share with them that you also have in your book that could support them for transitioning? So it's not just someone who we've lost, but as you shared, like we have so many higher percentage of people experiencing dementia and Alzheimer's. And I work with a lot of clients who their parents are going through that, and they're watching their parents who they love kind of like no longer be here. Like the personality is not there. The person who they knew is not there. And they're also working with this concept of, I've lost the person and then, I'm going to lose them. And then this transition, waiting for the transition of your parent to go is one stage. And then when they go, it's another stage. So some people, have accidents and we lose them immediately. So we're in the shock. But some people were getting ready to lose them. And can you share a little bit about how
Yeah.
this?
In my experiences, when a person in the family has died, usually for a lot of my clients, the first year they're in shock, and it's the second year that it's much more difficult for them because during that first year, whether the person passed instantly or the person had a long illness, but during that first year after death, that client of mine is in shock. And then the second year comes around, and that's when you realize, okay, my father, my spouse is not going to walk through that front door anymore. That they're gone. Many times the second year is much more difficult than the first. And I always tell my clients, this is a process. It's like the day that your heart stopped beating. You have to be patient. It's a process. Some of the exercises I like to do is meditation. It's very individualistic from person to person. Some people like to pray. Some people like to meditate. Always remember that for prayer, whether it's the chant that the Buddhists do, or the Catholics with the rosary, or the Christians, singing their hymns. All of that stuff is good, but what you're doing is you're talking to God, talking to spirit. If you want to listen to spirit, if you want to listen to God, you got to meditate. So doing the meditation really helps a lot of my clients, whether they have a religion or not, or a belief in God or not, to really kind of hone in on their grief. But I always tell clients, it's a process, and the more that you can share it with people. For example, some of my clients whose children have died, I can't go up to that client and say, "Oh my goodness, I know exactly what you're going through." That would be a slap to the client's face, because I have no idea what it's like to lose a child. So when that happens, I always tell those clients, go to Compassionate Friends. It's a worldwide organization like Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's only for parents. There's other clients of mine that are just going through just this incredible grief because their spouse or their child committed suicide. And I send them to Friends of Suicide. So then you can be with that support group. But the more that you can share it with people that understand what you're going through, the healing takes a faster pace.
And for people who are feeling guilty, as you said, like parents of usually children who have been like overdosing. I've worked with a lot of parents right now because their young people are using drugs, and suddenly they're overdosing, and they never forgive themselves. They always think that it was my fault, and I've done something wrong, that my child became an addict and overdosed. How do you, obviously from a psychological perspective, there are the things that we have them forgive themselves and look at the things that they've done the best that they could, and if they could have done anything else, they would. But from your type of work, how do you support this population?
Yeah, one of the first things that comes to my mind, this has happened a few times, where the child has overdosed on heroin, whether being in rehab for 6 months and then getting out and just doing a small little dose, and then they die because their body's not used to it, or just because it's cut with fentanyl. And there's been a few times that I will look at the client and I'd say, being in your son's body as I am right now, I said, I would be doing heroin too. And the clients looked at me like, "You would do heroin?" And I said, "Your son was extremely sensitive. Your son was very, very emotional, very, very sensitive." I said, "I would need a drug in order to be in this toxic world." And once I said that, the father, because it was a joint session, just started crying. And he said, I never understood my son's sensitivity. He was an artist. He was into music. He just was, he would see a pet being euthanized and he would just cry. That person living in this world. And that's why a lot of times there's alcohol abuse, drug abuse, addictions, because it's really difficult living in this world. And even what's happening in this world, even present day, it's hard for these youngsters. And I say to some parents, not all of them, gosh, I would probably be doing the same thing as well. Just to let them know I relate, because I'm a sensitive person. I always tell the other clients that have family members who are also very sensitive, passed over, I say, for me, when I'm doing this work as a medium, when I'm in session, I have to have the heart of a Bambi, a little baby deer. But when I'm done with the sitting, when I get in the car, before I turn on the ignition, I just imagine the skin of a rhinoceros around me. Because if somebody like, road rages in front of me or starts yelling at me for inadvertently like cutting them off or whatever, I would just crumble to being as sensitive as I am. So really at times envisioning what I say God's white light. If you don't want to say God, you can say Spirit's white light or the universe's white light all around us. And when that happens and you really envision that, there's a protection there.
Yes. I've been looking at also clients who have lost their parents. And possibly their parents were the only person who really felt them, who was behind them. And they feel so lost in the world when that particular parent is gone. And they feel naked, they feel vulnerable, they feel like I can't live without that parent. What are some of the ways that you console them, knowing that possibly their parent is still with them, or they might transition, or they might not transition from one level?
Yeah. What I've said to those clients is, with your father or your mother who has passed, it's almost like they had to pass in order for you to grow. And sometimes those clients like look at me like, what? And I'm like, listen, when we're on the planet, we have so many different lessons that we're supposed to learn. And I say to those clients, I said, now need to really have faith in yourself to make the right decisions, because your father used to make the decisions for you. Now you need to really trust your intuition on, doing decision A or B because your mother used to make the decisions for you. These are all lessons that are going to help you become a better person because now you're growing before the parents were the ones that were taken care of. My mother, who's now 97 years of age, she has done such a good job taking care of her children that I have a brother who has born in that house, and he'll probably die in the house. He's now 70 years of age, but my mother has done everything for him. And I know that when my mother passes at 70 years of age, he's probably going to crumble. But I mean, he's going to have to really learn how to pay an electric bill and do these things that the parent or the father or the mother used to do for them.
And what happens when you said, for example, that they sometimes they're transitioning, the soul transitions from, to another layer? And can people still connect when the soul has transitioned to another layer, or is it just
Great question.
point?
Yeah. So when I do the work, if a person's coming through from spirit, that means they have not reincarnated. Of course, they have transitioned. They're out of the body. They're in spirit. But that means they have not reincarnated. And there's times at the end of the sitting, a person said, "Oh, by the way, did you happen to see?" And I know what they're saying. Did you happen to see like my aunt or my brother? And I said, "Listen, don't tell me any information. Because if you ever have another sitting with me in the future, let's see if that so-and-so comes in." And sometimes the client will say, "Well, that so-and-so of mine," which I'm not going to tell you, "well, they're probably reincarnated and they've probably gone on." And I'm like, "No, we can't assume that yet. It just in this sitting, that means they did not come through." And one story that I have is I had this is going back about 20 years ago, and this Caucasian man was in front of me, and he was very, very Caucasian. We're talking like white hair, just more Caucasian than Colonel Sanders from KFC. And standing behind him, and this is his 8th session that he came in on. His 8th session, I'm going like this, and I'm going like this, and he goes, "What's the frown for?" And I said, "Well, there's this Black woman, this African American woman, wrapping her arms around you and saying how much she loves you. And she's going like this. And she's calling me an asshole for not bringing her in on your previous 7 sessions." And I went like this and I said, "Nobody's ever called me an asshole before. And I'm okay with that. But I'm confused." And then right when I said that, a tear strolled down his face and he goes, "That was my fiance. I've been waiting for her to come in." So if I would have told him on his first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh sitting, "Yes, so and so probably has reincarnated," that would have not been true.
Afterlife. A Medium's Message of Healing and Spiritual Transition by Tim Braun. Tim, anything we haven't shared that you really want people to know?
Be the best person that you can possibly be. I'm a dog lover. I have two big 130-pound Bernese mountain dogs, and I want to be what my dogs think that I am. I want to be the best person on the planet. And one thing that I always try to do daily, it's difficult. I always like to say, I'm a medium, I'm not a saint. So I make my mistakes, I have my frustrations, I get in my angers. So I'm not perfect like all of us. But if we can just leave the day better than we found it, then that's a good start. So maybe saying hello to the dry cleaning person that you never say hello to, and maybe compliment them on something that you feel is worth of a compliment. Oh, I like your smile. Well, then when you go to sleep that night, you can look back and you can say, okay, did I leave the planet better or worse today? And if you can say I left it better, doesn't matter if you believe in God or not, or whatever religion, then you're doing the right thing.
Beautiful. Everyone, please get this book. This is an amazing book where you really experience connection with what you have shared, not only through the stories, but the meditations and how to be the best that you can be and bring yourself into a space of healing with grief. And I think that it really also helps for us to relieve the anxiety of leaving, because a lot of people, obviously, there's an existential anxiety about not being or, death itself. So for people who read this book, not only they relieve some of their own anxiety, because it's almost like there's an unknown. So there's some path that gives you a little bit of a known, but also for everyone who has lost someone, you could definitely relate. And it has a lot of jewels for people to really read and bring into their life.
Thank you.
How can people find you?
My website is timbraunmedium.com. I'm in Newport Beach, California, in South Orange County here. And I go to different countries and do this work, and I go to different states. Just right now, I'm going to be leaving for Arizona to do a group for 60 people and do a week full of individual sittings. So I travel. But the most important thing I like to say is I try to every single day, leave the planet better than it was given to me. And again, that's difficult. It's difficult for all of us. But if we can just try, it will raise the vibration on the planet and things will shift and things will change in your life. Trust me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I know that you have to run to
Thank
here.
you very much. Thank you very much. I send tons of love to you for all of what you do as well.
Thank you. And for all of you who are out there, create an amazing life for yourself and everyone around you. And until next week, bye-bye.
Are you a psychotherapist looking to enhance your practice? The Awareness Integration Therapy, developed by Dr. Foojan Zeine, is a comprehensive guide to the principle and techniques of this powerful therapeutic approach. Join the growing community who have elevated their practice and expanded their skills by embracing awareness integration therapy and witnessing its life-changing impact. Order your copy on Amazon now.
Break free from the forces holding you back. Get the life you deserve. Eliminate stress, reduce anxiety, decrease depression, and start living your full potential. Thousands have used Dr. Foojan Zeine's Awareness Integration Theory, an evidence-based behavioral health breakthrough with incredible life-changing results. Getting rid of past trauma, having fulfilling relationships, increasing earnings, and living their best life. Now, the Foojan app is available to everyone. The app is Dr. Foojan Zeine's Awareness Integration Theory in the palm of your hand. Download the Foojan app today.